That orange vegetable on your Thanksgiving table is a delicious imposter, but its case of mistaken identity is hiding an incredible secret. We're about to show you the wonderful way to grow it, a method that is so magical it will change how you see this plant forever. And the most amazing part, it all begins with nothing more than a simple glass of water. The great Thanksgiving imposter, that bright orange vegetable on your Thanksgiving table, the one you call a yam. It's almost certainly not a yam. It's not even a potato. For decades, it's been a delicious imposter, and its true story is far more interesting than the myth. The case of mistaken identity is so widespread, we barely question it. But a true yam, a member of the Dioscorea genus, is something else entirely. It's a massive, starchy, and often dry tuber native to Africa and Asia, and it's not even remotely related to the sweet, orange-fleshed root we love. And to add to the confusion, the sweet potato isn't a potato either. The common russet or Yukon gold potato is a nightshade related to tomatoes. But our sweet potato, Ipomoea batatas, is in a family that might truly surprise you. It's a member of the morning glory family. This simple, centuries-old case of mistaken identity has done more than just confuse shoppers. It hides the vegetable's true, resilient, and wonderful nature from us. And the most wonderful part of its story doesn't begin in the ground. It begins in a simple glass of water. This is that wonderful way. It's a method so simple, so magical. It's the real reason you'll never look at this vegetable the same way again. The miracle in the water jar. If you want to grow a sweet potato, you don't plant a seed. You don't even plant the potato itself. The magic begins in a humble kitchen, with nothing but a jar of water and a few toothpicks. This is the wonderful way, a process that feels more like a science experiment than gardening. You take the tuber, suspend it halfway in water, and you wait. Soon, something incredible happens. From the buds, or eyes, slender purple and green vines emerge, stretching eagerly for the light. These are called slips. While the green life reaches up, a tangle of white roots drops down into the water below. Each one of these slips is a new plant, a perfect genetic clone of its parent. When a slip grows to be about 6 to 12 inches long, you gently twist it off the tuber and place it in its own jar of water. Within days, it will grow its own new roots, becoming a viable, independent plant, ready for the soil. You aren't planting a seed, you are planting a living piece of the original. This method is so efficient that a single sweet potato can produce over a dozen, sometimes even 50, new plants. It's a miracle of self-replication, a plant that clones itself, ensuring its survival across generations. This remarkable ability to regenerate is perhaps what allowed it to embark on an impossible journey, one that began thousands of years ago and continues to puzzle archaeologists to this day. The 8,000-year-old mystery. Deep in the caves of Peru, archaeologists found remnants of sweet potatoes dating back 8,000 years. But that's not the real mystery. The mystery is how this South American plant managed to travel thousands of miles across the empty expanse of the Pacific Ocean, landing in Polynesia long before any European explorers ever dreamed of sailing there. This is a puzzle that has baffled botanists and anthropologists for generations. The sweet potato is undeniably native to Central and South America. Yet, carbon-dated evidence found in the Cook Islands proves it was being grown there as early as 1000 AD. This was centuries before Columbus, and even further before Spanish galleons began crossing the Pacific. So, how did it get there? One theory, famously tested by explorer Thor Heyerdahl with his Kon-Tiki raft, suggests that ancient Polynesians were master navigators who sailed to South America, retrieved the plant, and brought it home. Another theory suggests the opposite, that South Americans drifted west. A more passive and less likely theory wonders if seeds or plant parts could have floated across the vast ocean on their own, remaining viable. Scientists still debate the exact method, but the evidence is clear. This humble plant is a prehistoric world traveler. It crossed the world's largest ocean on its own terms, a testament to its incredible resilience. This toughness didn't just make it a good traveler, it also made it a savior for civilizations on the brink of collapse. The food that saved China. In the late 16th century, the Ming dynasty in China was facing a series of devastating crop failures. Famine stalked the land, as generations of knowledge about rice and wheat became useless. Fields turned to dust. The solution arrived not from a new policy, but from the sea, carried by Spanish and Portuguese traders from the New World. It was a foreign root, a humble stowaway on their ships, and it could grow in the poorest, most marginal soils where nothing else would. This was the sweet potato, and for China, it was a lifeline. Unlike the delicate rice paddies that demanded water and rich soil, the sweet potato thrived on sandy hills and in drought-stricken fields. It required little care and produced a massive yield of calories. It wasn't just another crop, it was a famine food, a buffer between the people and starvation. This humble root quickly spread across the country, stabilizing the food supply and allowing the population to endure and eventually grow. It wasn't just food, it was a national savior. This incredible ability to rescue entire regions wasn't just a historical footnote. Centuries later, in another country, it would be called upon again, this time to save the very soil of the American South. George Washington Carver's other miracle. When you hear the name George Washington Carver, you think of peanuts. But he championed another, equally powerful crop to save the soil and farmers of the American South. For generations, the reign of King Cotton had depleted the land, stripping it of vital nutrients and trapping sharecroppers in a cycle of poverty and debt, chaining an entire generation to a single crop that was actively destroying the land they worked. Carver saw a way out, not just with peanuts, but with the sweet potato. He knew it was hardy, nutritious, and perfectly suited to those tired soils. But planting it was only half the battle. If poor farmers suddenly grew a massive surplus, they needed someone to sell it to. This is where Carver's true genius emerged. He didn't just see a root, he saw an entire industry. He went into his laboratory and developed over 100 new products from the humble tuber. He turned it into flour for bread, starch for sizing fabrics, sugar, vinegar, and even a type of mock coconut. He published these recipes in free bulletins, giving struggling farmers a roadmap to profitability. He was creating demand from scratch, turning a simple garden vegetable into a viable cash crop. He wasn't just saving the soil, he was building a new economy. But even as Carver was proving its immense value, its very identity was being cleverly disguised by a marketing campaign that would confuse Americans for a century. The Great American Yam Conspiracy. So, why do Americans call them yams? The answer isn't in a biology book, it's in a 1930s marketing meeting in Louisiana. For years, the American market was dominated by paler, drier varieties of sweet potatoes. But when new, incredibly soft, orange-fleshed types were introduced, growers faced a problem. They needed a way to set these superior, sweeter vegetables apart, to signal to shoppers that this was something new and different. So they borrowed a word. They took the word nyami, an African word for the true yam, anglicized it to yam, and stamped it on their new crop. It was a brilliant and deceptive marketing move. The name stuck, and yam became synonymous with the soft, orange-flesh sweet potato, especially in the American South. The campaign was so successful that it created decades of confusion, which the United States Department of Agriculture eventually had to address. Today, the agency requires any label that says yam to also be accompanied by the words sweet potato to clarify what's actually being sold. This simple marketing trick effectively hid the food's identity for a century. Meanwhile, halfway around the world, a different variety of this same plant was becoming famous, not for its name, but for its rumored ability to extend life. The fountain of youth, potato. In Okinawa, Japan, more people live to be 100 than almost anywhere else on Earth. For generations, researchers studying this blue zone of longevity found that their traditional diet staple wasn't fish or rice. It was a vegetable with a vibrant, shocking purple flesh. Locally, known as beni imo, this Okinawan sweet potato was the primary source of carbohydrates for the island's famously long-lived residents. The secret to its power lies in that incredible, deep purple color. That rich pigment is the sign of a massive concentration of anthocyanins, the very same powerful antioxidants found in blueberries. These compounds are celebrated for their health benefits, including fighting inflammation and protecting the body's cells. For the Okinawans, it wasn't a superfood trend. It was simply their daily food, a humble root that quietly contributed to their remarkable health and longevity. It's a living testament to the plant's profound nutritional power, a fountain of youth growing quietly in the soil. But you don't need to live on a remote Japanese island to harness the magic of growing this plant. In fact, you don't even need a yard, the 5-gallon farm. Think you need a sprawling farm or a huge garden to grow your own sweet potatoes? Think again. All you need is a single 5-gallon bucket, a sunny patio, and one of those living slips we talked about. This is the 5-gallon farm, a modern and wonderful way to connect with this ancient plant. The process is remarkably simple. You drill a few drainage holes in the bottom of the bucket, as the roots despise sitting in water. Then, you fill it with loose, well-draining soil, giving the tubers plenty of room to expand. Plant your rooted slip, set it in the sun, and just add water. For months, you'll be rewarded with a beautiful spilling cascade of green and purple vines, a living reminder that you are, in fact, growing a morning glory. It becomes a stunning patio plant. But all the while, the real magic is happening unseen, below the surface, as the roots swell and thicken into new potatoes. The best part comes at the end of the season. There is no digging, no heavy work. You simply dump the entire bucket onto a tarp. It's a moment of pure discovery, like uncovering a hidden treasure of bright, perfect roots. But once you have that treasure in hand, the work isn't quite done. If you eat one right away, you'll be disappointed. The real magic, the sweetness we crave, only happens after the harvest. The sweetening room, if you dig up a sweet potato and eat it right away, you'll be disappointed. It's starchy, bland, and not very sweet at all. This is the secret step that separates home growers from master chefs. The real magic, the deep, complex sweetness we crave, only happens after the harvest, in a process called curing. This is the sweet potato's final hidden transformation. For 1 to 2 weeks, the newly harvested roots are moved to a sweetening room, a hot, humid sauna held at high heat, ideally between 85 and 90 degrees Fahrenheit, with very high humidity. This warm, damp environment does 2 critical things. First, it triggers the potato to rapidly heal any cuts, scrapes, or bruises it got during digging, creating a new, tougher skin that allows it to be stored for many months without rotting. But the second part is the true alchemy. The sustained warmth activates natural enzymes inside the root, which begin the slow, deliberate work of converting the potato's own complex starches into simple sugars, primarily maltose. The potato literally sweetens itself. This crucial rest is the secret to how you get that deep, caramelized, creme brulee-like sweetness from a simple root. It's an act of patience that transforms a bland tuber into a delicacy. We're so focused on the root, but we often miss another beautiful secret that's been hiding above ground. The secret morning glory. We're so focused on the root, we almost never see what's happening above ground. But if you let a sweet potato plant go long enough, it reveals its beautiful secret. It's not just a root vegetable, it's a flower. This is the most surprising fact, the one we've hidden behind the misleading name, potato. It belongs to the Convolvulaceae family, making it a direct relative of the beautiful, trumpet-shaped morning glory that climbs fences and trellises. When the sweet potato plant is allowed to mature fully and the daylight hours are just right, it reveals this hidden lineage. It produces its own delicate flowers, often a pale, soft purple or white, with a deeper colored throat. They look almost identical to their ornamental cousins, unfurling in the cool of the morning and closing as the day's heat builds. It's a stunning, quiet display, but most farmers, and even most gardeners, never get to see it. The plant's energy is, by design, focused on creating those large, sugary roots underground. We harvest those roots long before the plant has the time or the biological trigger to bother with blooming. It's a hidden beauty, a floral secret kept just out of sight. We value it for what's in the soil, not for the fleeting blossoms it can create. But the flowers aren't the only part of the plant we've been overlooking. For centuries, we've cultivated this plant for one thing, and in doing so, we've been throwing away half the meal. The part you're throwing away. For centuries, we've cultivated this plant for one thing, the root. But in doing so, we've been ignoring a delicious, nutritious secret hidden in plain sight. We've been throwing away half the meal. The answer is in those lush, vibrant vines. The sweet potato leaves are not just edible. they are delicious and packed with nutrition. In many parts of Africa and Asia, the leaves are just as important, if not more so, than the tubers below. They are treated much like spinach or collard greens, and when picked young and tender, they have a mild, pleasant flavor. They can be sautéed with garlic, added to stir fries, or simmered in stews. This simple fact transforms the sweet potato from a single harvest crop into a two-for-one wonder. All summer long, as the roots are quietly growing underground, you can be harvesting the leaves above for continuous meals. It is a plant of almost perfect efficiency, offering both a staple carbohydrate and a fresh vegetable from the exact same space in the garden. This incredible utility is why it's not just a backyard curiosity. It's a cornerstone of American agriculture, perfected in one state above all others. The North Carolina Gold Rush. Where does the American sweet potato truly come from? You might think of Georgia, the Peach State, or Louisiana, famous for its yams. But the undisputed king, the true epicenter of the sweet potato world, is one state you might not expect. North Carolina produces over 60% of the entire nation's supply. This isn't an accident. The state's coastal plain offers the perfect environment: light, loamy, and sandy soil. This is the secret. That loose, well-draining earth doesn't fight back, allowing the roots to swell into the smooth, unblemished, and perfectly shaped tubers that supermarkets demand. While George Washington Carver was experimenting in Alabama, generations of North Carolina farmers were quietly perfecting the art and science of growing this one crop. They transformed a humble vegetable into a billion-dollar industry, a modern gold rush that has become the economic backbone for countless communities. This mastery has made the state synonymous with sweet potatoes, shipping their Carolina gold all over the world. But long before this massive industry, and before modern refrigeration, homesteaders had their own clever way of preserving this massive harvest. The sweet potato leather of the pioneers. Before there were pantries full of canning jars, and long before electric refrigerators, a massive sweet potato harvest presented a serious challenge. How could a pioneer family keep that bounty from rotting before the long winter set in? They couldn't cure and store all of it, so they turned to a method of preservation that was pure, practical genius. They turned it into something you might recognize from a modern lunchbox: a sweet, chewy leather. This was a forgotten art. They would first boil the sweet potatoes until they were completely soft, then mash them into a smooth, thick pulp. This pulp was often mixed with honey, molasses, and warm spices like cinnamon and nutmeg, tasting very much like the inside of a Thanksgiving pie. But instead of a crust, this mixture was spread out in a thin, even layer on a wooden tray or a piece of clean cloth. The trays were then set out in the hot sun or placed near the hearth of the fire to slowly dry over several days. The water would evaporate, leaving behind a dense, flexible, and completely shelf-stable sheet. This sweet potato leather, sometimes called pumpkin leather, could be rolled up, stored in tins, and kept for months. It was the perfect nutritious snack for a cold winter's day, a way to carry the sweetness of the harvest with you. This incredible adaptability, this ability to be preserved in almost any form, is precisely what makes the sweet potato so valuable. It wasn't just the perfect food for the past. It's now being studied as the perfect food for the most extreme environments imaginable. The astronaut's garden. When National Aeronautics and Space Administration scientists began designing the perfect food for long-term space missions to Mars, they didn't invent a new pill or a synthetic paste. They turned to one of Earth's oldest, most reliable, and most wonderful crops. The sweet potato is, in many ways, the perfect astronaut's garden. Its advantages for a closed-loop system, like a habitat on another planet, are almost perfect. It has an incredibly high yield in a very small space, and adapts beautifully to the hydroponic systems that would be used in space, growing without any soil at all. But its greatest strength is its total efficiency. Astronauts could harvest the nutritious young leaves continuously, providing a source of fresh space salad rich in vitamins, all while the tubers grow safely below, producing the dense, reliable carbohydrates needed for energy. It's a complete food system in a single plant. It is packed with vitamin A, vitamin C, and fiber, and it would even play a role in recycling wastewater and purifying the air. It's the ultimate expression of the plant's resilience, a food that didn't just save famines on Earth, but might one day sustain human life on another world. It's been called a poverty food, a yam, and a potato. But after centuries of being overlooked, this ancient globe-trotting plant is finally having its renaissance. The vegetable of tomorrow. It's been called a poverty food, a yam, and a potato. For centuries, it's been the overlooked, misunderstood workhorse of the field. But today, this ancient globe-trotting plant is finally having its long-overdue renaissance. It is an 8,000-year-old survivor from South America that crossed the Pacific before ships did. It was a famine savior in 16th century China and the key to restoring the soil of the American South. It's been cleverly disguised by marketers, celebrated by centenarians in Okinawa, and grown in 5-gallon buckets on city patios. We've learned its secrets, from the magic of creating slips in a water jar to the patient, sweetening cure that transforms its very nature. We've rediscovered its edible leaves and even its hidden morning glory flowers. But this renaissance isn't just about vegetables, it's about us. In a world of instant gratification and disposable food, the sweet potato is a reminder of something more. The wonderful way to grow a sweet potato isn't just one method. It is the plant's own relentless, wonderful way of surviving, adapting, and providing for us. It has been a quiet miracle under our feet all along, patiently waiting for us to see it. The world is full of forgotten wisdom and hidden stories. If you enjoyed uncovering the truth about this incredible plant, like this video and subscribe to join us as we discover more.